Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see everybody today. When Mark asked me to speak, he suggested maybe I tell a few things I've went through. Some of them good, some of them bad. And I was trying to figure out where to start because I do have quite a history. So as many of you know, some of you do, some of you don't, I race cars. I raced cars for many years. And I had an episode on a half-mile racetrack in the state of Missouri where I flipped a car end over end 12 times. Tore out 20 feet of the inside guardrail, broke the frame in 6 places, sheared the valves off the left side of the engine, sheared the roll cage off. I was pinned in the car with the wood, the debris from the inside guardrail. Front end was tore out from underneath of it. Nose cone was gone, hood was gone, tail was gone. Wasn't much left. You got to realize that these sprint cars are not much anyhow to begin with. They only weigh 1,200 pounds, running about 600-700 horsepower. So they're a bomb waiting to explode. And luckily, mine didn't explode. I had a 2x12 that come through the car, went through the firewall, went through my seat, tore my suit, nicked my ribs. But it went into a fuel cell that had 12 gallons of nitromethane in it. Had that went up, it would have been a crispy critter. Wouldn't be here today, that's for sure. But it didn't happen. The good Lord protected me. But through all of this, the announcer was the president of IMCA, was announcing for some reason, I'll never know why. But he was saying that there's no way anybody could live through this. My wife, my daughter, my partner's wife, and his 2 kids were in the grandstands. They thought I was dead. They didn't have no idea. And they're trying to get them down to where I was at. So they finally got them down there. I'm sitting on a tire. That's the only thing. It's one of the things that's left on the car. Highway patrolman comes up there. And one of my pit crew had ran over a quarter of a mile to help get me out of this car. And I'm sitting on this tire, and this highway patrolman comes up there, and he says, get him in the back of the pickup. Get him off his feet. Get him off his feet. And I'm pretty dazed, but I'm still to it. I know where I'm at. And I'm thinking, you know, what's wrong? And gets me in the back of the truck, and they lay me down, and reaches down, and he starts to pull my boot off. And I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he said, well, your leg's broke. It's sticking outside your boot. Well, back those days, we wore Wellington boots. We didn't have racing shoes like you have today. And he pulled that boot off. And you know how your mind works? The minute he started pulling that boot off, I felt it filling up with blood. And I thought, oh, this ain't going to be good. And he pulled that boot off, and he turned around and looked at that boot, and he throwed it down there. And I said, man, be careful. That's my foot. Well, what it was there's a piece of wood that had come through the car somehow, went down, went through my boot, and come out the side of it. So just a piece of wood. He was disappointed, I guess, that it wasn't my foot sticking out there. It was just a piece of wood. But anyhow, I come through that, and the good Lord protected me. I didn't have anything other than a few black eyes, and, well, 2 black eyes. And I was pretty sore for a period of time. So that kind of ended my racing career right there for a short period of time. Because I was out of money and couldn't fix it. So neighbor across the street was building motorcycles, racing motorcycles. So I thought, let's try that. It's only 2 wheels instead of 4. Got to be cheaper. Well, it really wasn't, because we were scramble racing one afternoon, and went up a hill, and I was racing the guy up a hill, and I actually edged him out and got to the top. We started coming back down. We come back down. I kind of proud of myself. And I come down a little hot, hit hard, broke the right bar off. The right bar controls the throttle. So I had no control over the throttle, but there was a big grassy field out here. I thought I'll just let it run off out there and it'll quit running. Unfortunately, there was a 3-foot drainage ditch in the middle of that field. I hit that drainage ditch, flipped end over end, the motorcycle landed on me, busted my sternum, broke my left wrist, dislocated my ankle. So I got in and out of bed on my hands and knees for 6 months. So you'd think that would kind of slow things up a little bit, but a year later I was at an auction and there was a souped up mini bike for sale. So I thought, I convinced Anita, I said, well, I'm gonna buy that for Gina, for her. She really wasn't on board with it, but I had some money, so I went ahead and bought it. 2 nights later, I broke both knees. Both knees at the same time. So the next day, she got a hold of Ernest Zavados, which was the bone surgeon for the Kansas City Chiefs. She got a hold of him and got me in there, and he x-rayed me. And he said, we got to put a cast on both legs. And I said, no. I said, you pick out the worst one. Put a cast on it, you leave the other one alone. So that's what he did. He put a cast on my left leg. It was the worst one. Well, my right leg got to the point to where it was going off about 20 degrees. I was actually kind of walking sideways. You know, couldn't hardly walk straight because my leg was so crooked. So finally, I had my knee replaced, had my shoulder replaced. But Yahweh brought me through all that, protected me. I was never really hurt, bad. And all the accidents I had in race cars, I got more, but this is enough. He protected me through all of that. Even though I wasn't really walking with him, I wasn't really following him the way I should have been following him, but he protected me and kept me safe, kept me from my family. So a few years later, I wound up in the hospital with acute pancreatitis. And it was so bad when we finally got there. I was really bad, and I was stubborn and hard-headed. I wasn't going to the doctor, and Anita, we were fighting and arguing, and she said, the doctor's office is open 30 minutes. It takes 20 minutes to get there. If you go now, fine. If you don't, just lay there and suffer. So finally I said, no, okay, I'm going. So we went, got down there, and they gave me a couple shots of Demerol, and it wouldn't take care of it. And he said, we're going to call an ambulance to take you to the hospital. I said, well, you get me out there in the back of that car. She'll get me there before any ambulance will ever get me there. And she did, but she hit every hole on the way. I don't think there was a pothole in the road she missed, but anyhow, she got me there. And I'm in the ER, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with me. They don't have a clue. And they asked her to say, well, how much did he drink? And she said, well, all he wants, I guess. I don't know. She didn't pay attention. She didn't drink. She wasn't an alcoholic. I was. She didn't know it. I didn't know it. She knew it, I guess. But anyhow, I come to long enough, and the doctor said, well, how much do you drink? And I said, what are you talking about? How much do I drink? What do you mean? And he said, you drink a can of beer a night? What do you drink? And I just kind of laughed at him, He said, well, how much do you drink? And I said, I drink all I want. I'm drinking until it's gone. And I'm drinking until there's nothing left. That's just the way it was. And he said, well, told Nita, he said, you need to get the family together because he didn't look good. We got 3 days at best. So here I am. I'm still here, but you know what? I quit drinking and smoking that same day. in that hospital. I walked out of that hospital 10 days later. I wasn't smoking, I wasn't drinking. So I had to go back to the doctor for a checkup. You know how you do after you've been in the hospital, you have to go back to a checkup. Went in, sat down, little Oriental doctor. How you doing? And I said, well, I'm doing fine, but one of my chest sure hurts. And got the boy real serious, you know. He said, your chest hurts. He said, what's wrong with your chest? What's wrong? What's wrong? I said, well, I keep reaching for them cigarettes. They're not there. And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't smoke anymore. And he says, no, you got to smoke. You got to smoke. Your body's going through a change. You got to smoke. You got to drink. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you need to have a glass of wine a day and smoke and then cut back. Just cut back, cut back. And I said, you don't understand, Doc. When you open the cork, I throw the bottle away. I'm just not a one drinking person. That's all there is to it. I'm not. So I'm not going to drink. He says, man, your body's going through all this with transformation, and you've got to do that. This ain't doing it. So I've had 2 drinks since 1988. Both were at Feast Passover. Both were unexpected. I thought it was grape juice. Wasn't grape juice. The first time, when they come back around to fill it back up, I had to think long and hard. Am I going to take that second drink or not? And I turned the cup upside down and said no. The second time, I never even finished it. Because I know Yahweh has put on me my limitations, that I am an alcoholic. I can't drink. And I know that. And I remember the first time after I started pastoring, I remember the first time I was called to go to a tavern to get a gentleman out that was a pastor, that his son had died in a car wreck, and he was having trouble forgiving God because his son died. And he was in a tavern, drunk, and they called me at midnight one night wanting me to go get him out. And I told Ned, I said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go in the tavern. I don't want to go in the beer joint. I'm afraid to go in the beer joint. So we prayed and prayed. And I got up, and I went down. I got down there. I went in, sat down, was talking to him, and then, of course, the barmaid comes over. What do you want to drink? I said, I'll take Coke. Well, we got ready to leave. An hour or so later, there were 6 bottles of beer lined up in front of me. Somebody was buying drinks for me, and I wasn't drinking. They just continued buying them. But I didn't want them. And it was a testimony to me that Yahweh had taken that away from me, that I didn't have to worry about alcohol anymore. And I don't to this day. It doesn't bother me a bit. I don't smoke, I don't drink. And it doesn't bother me that, and don't misunderstand me, I'm not condemning people that drink a glass of wine. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you can't control one glass, then you need to look at yourself. You've got a problem. But anyhow, later on, I developed, sepsis. I developed sepsis. And the first time I developed sepsis, it wasn't too awful bad. It was bad enough, but it wasn't too awful bad. But it was bad enough that I spent several days in the hospital, and then later on, I developed sepsis, and I got real bad. I got very bad. And luckily, Mark and Tiffany, my youngest daughter, had bought a rifle machine. And Mark had educated her on how to use it and how to set it up. So I'm in the hospital, and the doctors and nurses all come in one day, and they're all suited up. They got hazmat suits on, got masks on, they got hairnets on, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I got the bubonic plague. You know, I had no idea what I had, but I thought I had something that was bad. So I got nerve enough up, and I asked the doctor, I said, what do I got? I said, how bad is it? And he said, what do you mean, what have you got? And I said, well, I must really be contagious. You guys are all coming in here all suited up and everything. You're scared to death of what I got. And I said, no, we're scared to death to give you anything. You don't have no immunity. And I said, well, just how bad am I? On a scale of 1 to 10, they said, you're 8.5 going downhill. You're going the wrong way. So Tiffany had talked to Mark, and Mark educated her on this Rife machine. They snuck this machine in the hospital in suitcases, and the bulb that you put in the bed is about this long. They wrapped that up and put that bulb in the bed with me in the hospital. 3 days later, I walked out of the hospital. The doctors were just shaking their head. Had no idea at all what had just transpired. They didn't know. They hadn't done anything other than take me off of all of my medication. It took me off of everything I was taking, and I got better. I walked out of the hospital. They didn't know about the Rife machine. They did think it looked a little funny, all the suitcases that were being carried out. But my granddaughter, she stayed there with me. There was somebody with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for however long I was in there. And she stayed right there. And if the nurses actually came around to that side of the bed, she kind of moved them around to where they couldn't get around to where the Rife machine and everything was. So they had no idea of what had went through. But there was a case again where Yahweh brought me through. But Yahweh brought me through it because of Mark, the Rife machine, and the faith that we have in God. My great-grandson's not here. They had to leave early this morning, but he shot himself in the leg with a 9mm accidentally, cleaning it, didn't check it properly, something went wrong, anyhow, shot himself in the leg. Severed all the arteries in his leg. He's in the hospital, laying in the hospital, and they're telling his wife, they're saying, we're going to take his leg. And she says, no, you're not. You're not taking his leg. They said, but we can't save it. She said, our God can save it. Yahweh can save that leg. They said, but he has no blood. There's no vessels. They're all destroyed. She said, I don't care. You're not taking his leg. So one surgeon come in and he said, I got a chance of one vessel. I may be able to fix one vessel, but he'll lose his foot. She said, no, he's not going to lose his foot. Our God will protect his foot. He was in a hospital for some 30 days. I don't even remember how many surgeries now. But he was here yesterday. He was here last year. Having faith. See, that the first thing they wanted to do was they wanted to take his leg off. Then they weren't satisfied. They were going to take something. So when Gabby was adamant that they were not going to take his leg, they were going to take his foot. She said, no, you're not going to take his foot. Our God is a powerful God. Our God will save that foot. And it did. And he works, he walks, he jumps, he runs. He hurts, but, we do suffer our consequences. But it just shows you how powerful our God is. And I really would like to talk to you a little bit this morning about who are you following? What are you following? The thing that disturbs me the most today is this AI. We got so many people, they're not going to church, they're not following a positive pastor, they're not following a positive religion, if you will, Christianity. They're not following that, they're following AI. And they're following YouTube, and they have no idea at all what they're being told, what they're being taught. Children are being taught how to commit suicide because they don't feel like they can deal with the pressures, the peer pressure, the pain. And I understand that. I understand everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants to be accepted. But you have to understand you're already accepted by Yeshua. Jesus Christ has already accepted you. You don't have to be accepted by anybody else. You've got the Almighty on your side. You've got the Almighty that will protect you and guide you in your thoughts and in your actions if you follow Him. 22 times, depending on what you're reading, but 22 times Yeshua, Jesus Christ, said, "Follow me." What do you think the people feel today that were led to believe that the 23rd of October they were going to be raptured out? So they sold everything they had, quit their job, give all their money and possessions away, and the 24th they were still here. Well, their pastor said, well, it could have been off one day because of time zones. How he figured that, I don't know. So they woke up the 25th, they were penniless and they were jobless and they were homeless because they followed a false prophet. I don't know whether you believe in a rapture or whether you don't. I'm not here to debate that. I'm here to tell you that you need to follow Yeshua, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. He said, "Follow me, I'll make you fishers of men." Can you imagine what those fishermen thought? We're out here trying to fish for fish, and you want us to fish for men? That had to be a pretty eye-opening thought. How do I fish for men? What kind of bait do you use? How big a hook? What kind of rod? How big a net? Well, the net is Jesus Christ. The net is the Word of God. That's your net right there. You can't get a bigger net. You can't get a stronger net than that. And if you will, that's the biggest hook. Got the best bait. What's the bait? Everlasting life. Everlasting life with Yeshua. Everlasting life with Jesus Christ. It's really hard to imagine what that's going to be like. I like to think about it. I like to vision it. I'm in no hurry, don't get me wrong. But I like to think about how nice it's going to be. I got to have my shoulder replaced, and I'm thinking, I'm 83 years old. Do I want to go through that? Or do I want to wait for Yeshua? Right now, I'm waiting on Him. If He doesn't hurry up, I may have to get it done. But it's up to Him. It's not up to me. If I get it done, I get it done. If I don't, I don't. If I don't get it done, we all wake up with a new body, right? That's going to be a great feeling. Follow me. Deny yourself and follow me. What does deny yourself mean? I've thought a lot about that. You know, what does deny yourself mean? To me, it means follow the 10 Commandments. If anything that you're doing is in conflict with the 10 Commandments, get rid of it. If you got a vehicle you're so proud of, you park 40 spots away from everybody else at the Walmart parking lot, get rid of it. It's a thorn in your side. It's a vehicle. You know, we used to go to church when Anita and I got married. She was RLDS. Don't throw rocks, but anyhow, she was RLDS. We went to church twice a year, Easter and Christmas, and that was to show off our new suits in the car. The only time I went to church, the only reason to go, for me to go. I didn't have any other reason to go except to show my family off. And then she started studying, and she started studying this Sabbath thing, and I went screaming and kicking because Sabbath was my hangover or getting hangover day. And I wasn't going to give it up. I wasn't in any hurry to give it up. And Christmas, good Lord, I got to give up Christmas? That was one of the drunkenest times of the year. But studying, I finally realized she was right. A lot more than she was wrong. So the last Christmas I celebrated, she didn't, that I celebrated, almost drowned because I was going to go cut my own Christmas tree and we was going to have our own Christmas, and I fell through the creek up to my shoulder. But I still got that Christmas tree, and I drug that thing home and stuck it in and that was the last one. Never had another one. But I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to give that up. I just didn't want to give it up. We had so much fun, I thought. And after we gave it up, there was so much peace. We had so much peace when we gave up Christmas and we gave up Easter. And we actually started going to church just to go to church, not to show off. Now, Anita didn't go to show off, but I went to show off the family. So it was so nice to be able to go do that and to enjoy that and to follow Yeshua, to follow Jesus Christ. And is it easy? No, it's not really easy when you're living in the world and you see what everybody else is doing out and about and around you and what they're doing on Friday night and Saturday night. I still own 4 race cars and I still want to race, but everything's on Friday night and Saturday night. Back when I was racing, we raced on Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night. I mean, that's all we did was race. That's all we did. You can't do that anymore because, so what's the point? If I'm going to obey Yahweh, if I'm going to obey God's laws, I can't race on Friday night and Saturday night. Too much work involved. So I had to make a choice. I just look at them and think, what if? What if I spend another $1 million on race cars that I don't have, that somehow or other I would figure out? Or do I follow the 10 Commandments? To me, that's denying. I'm denying some of the things that I really want to do. But the things that I really want to do conflict within what Yahweh, Yeshua wants me to do. And that's obey them. Obey the 10 Commandments. Follow their example. Follow Yeshua. Be fishers of men. I remember when I started preaching. I've never been to seminary, so I'm not a seminary preacher. And from what I found out they teach, I'm glad I didn't go. But I remember a lot of people that I grew up with that can't understand who I am today, because kind of going back to when I had pancreatitis and I quit drinking, I kind of lost a lot of friends. My circle of friends got smaller and smaller as there was no beer in the refrigerator and there was no alcohol in the cabinet. So it kind of shows you what kind of friends you really have. True friends will stay by you. They'll stand beside you. They'll support you. Regardless of how bad it gets or how tough things are, they'll stand there and they'll support you. And if you're following Yahweh, if you're following Yeshua, you're going to support other people. You're going to help other people. You're going to reach out to other people. You're going to guide them and direct them in the right path. Be able to go up to them gently and tell them, I see you're doing this, and this is contrary to Yahweh's laws. This is contrary to the Ten Commandments. I'm not condemning you because I probably was where you was at one time. My wife told me one day, she says, you're becoming just like a group of people I was running with. This was back in our 30s. And I had to stop and think about it because I was running with a bunch of unsavory people. And I had to stop and think about what she said. When she said, you're becoming just like them. I said, no, I'm not coming like them. No. But when I looked back and I got to thinking about my life, I was becoming like them. And I didn't like what they were, but for some reason I was attracted to run with them, to associate with them. I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why, other than that's what I grew up in. They were people I grew up around. They were people I grew up with, people I knew. And I ran with a bunch of Italians. And you'd get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. When you got a phone call from an Italian at 2 o'clock in the morning, they expect you to be somewhere at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the last 2 o'clock phone call I got was the last one because I didn't show up. I said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So you are who you associate with. If you're going to get out there and waller in the pigs, you're going to be a pig. You're going to be like one. You can put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. You can't change it. But you can change who you are. You can change who you associate with. You can change who you run with. And you can do that by following Yeshua, by following Yahweh, by following God's law. It's about the only way you can do it. Is by letting Him guide you and direct you in your thoughts and in your actions, in following Him. There's so many other things in my life that He's brought me through. I'm not going to bore you with them, but I'm so blessed to be here and walking, talking. Shouldn't be. Really shouldn't be. But a lot of my problems that I have, I brought onto myself by the way I lived. my life. And I'm saying that by the food I ate, by what I drank. The greasier, the easier it slid down, the better it was. But I'm paying for it now. And you young people here don't have to go through that. You don't have to. There's too much good stuff out there. Listen to your parents. You parents, listen to Yahweh. Listen to God. Whatever God's laws are. I mean, we're doing the best we can with our family right now, trying to do the best we can with the food and everything. And pay attention to what is good for the body and what's not. Alcoholism is not good for the body. AI is not good for the body. AI can get you off into so many different things, so many different ways you have no idea what's true and what's not. It's so subtle. And I by far don't understand any of it. I really, really don't. Thank God I don't. And I don't pay attention to it. But these little ones do. And I say little ones. Anybody under 30 years to me is little, young. You have to be so careful of what you're following. Sometimes it means you have to get away from your parents. If your parents are not following God, if they're not following Yahweh, if they're not following the 10 Commandments, you have to do things your way. I know my family, when we gave up Christmas and we gave up Easter and we started keeping the Sabbath and we started using the holy names, they thought we were plumb berserk. We done lost it. And in fact, Nita's family and my family both asked both of us, you don't believe in Jesus anymore? Yeah, we believe in Jesus, the one in the Bible. Not the one that we've been hearing about from others. We believe the one that's in the Bible. We know people that's close to our age right now that because of YouTube, because of AI, they have actually convinced themselves that the Bible is not true. And these people have been staunch Bible believers and teachers for years. Pardon me. But through the internet, they have convinced themselves that Yeshua is not necessarily the Savior, that there's other ways. And these are people that are in their 70s. But this is through AI, through electronics, through the YouTube. So we really have to be really, really careful of what we're following, of what we're listening to. And it's so easy to turn the radio on in the car and have something going on in there in the background, and you're not really paying attention to it, but yet it's in the background. And it's kind of a subliminal message. When we were doing deliverance, we were talking about backward masking. How when backward masking was coming in, and we showed people how backward masking worked on music. And the grocery stores got so smart that they took the same thing. The only thing was they took and put the bakeries in the back of the grocery store so the smell went all the way through. So when you walked in the store to get a loaf of bread, you were so hungry you left with $100 worth of groceries. And you didn't realize that till you got out in the car and you started loading the car and thought, well, gee, where'd all this stuff come from? And that's what happens to us right now with AI. That's what's happening to us right now with YouTube and different things that's on there. I seen a deal the other day where Billy Graham came out with a new message in 2025. And you go figure that one. AI generated. He's got a new message in 2025. Now, young people probably don't know who Billy Graham is, but anyhow, Billy Graham's been gone 10 years? How long? I don't know. You know, Mark? I don't know how long he's been gone. I really didn't pay attention to him. We did go see him one time, many years ago. But that just shows you the things that's going on that it's hard to understand. It's almost like just shut it off. Just turn it off. This is the first time in a long time that I've been down here that I've actually haven't been on my phone every second during the day. I buy and sell stuff and different things, and just kind of when we got down here, it's done for a week. I'm going to take a week off. I want to enjoy some time with the family and everything else. So just be careful of who you're following. That's all I want to say is just be careful of who you're following. Follow Yeshua. Follow Jesus Christ. Follow his example. I mean, it's not too much to ask. He shed his blood on Calvary for each and every one of us. He was nailed to that tree, that cross, and he didn't deserve it. But he did it for you and me. So it's not too much for us to follow his example. I don't think. I don't think it's too much at all to follow the example he said. He said we're going to be persecuted. What's the persecution? I don't know what it's going to be. And I'm not going to worry about it because I know I'm protected. Whatever it is, it can't be that bad because I'm going to wake up with him. And you have to look at it that way. You have to look at it like, okay, whatever comes, I'm going to deal with whatever comes. He's going to give me the strength to get through whatever it is. And I'm going to come out the other side better. Whatever the other side is, I'm coming out better. And that's what we need. That's the mindset we've got to have, is that we're coming out better. We're getting out of this deal better. And that's only if you're following him. I've been so privileged to baptize 6 members of my family. I baptized people in the Jordan River. I baptized 3 people in the Jordan River. I've led a blessed life. Very, very, very blessed life. Some days it didn't feel that way. But then I get up the next day and we go do it again. Get up the next day and go do it again. Thanks to the strength that he has given me, the protection he has afforded me, and the guidance that he provides for me, I'm able to get up and do that. That's all. Thanks for listening to me.